one of those really impressive numbers that you see in a lot of TEDx talks is X% of jobs that our students in our schools were going to undertake do not exist yet. We've all seen that statistic, and that X% changes every single year. We hear that in the futures that our students will have not one job, not 3 jobs, but they will have many, many, many jobs in their lifetime. Many of those jobs don't currently exist. To the extent where my children, who are doing GCSEs and A-levels in the UK, have chosen subjects to study at that age, and my parents basically say, product design? Don't you want to go to university? You know, all the time, the kind of courses and the kind of learning that our students have is changing. And it's very difficult for people, certainly of my parents' generation, to understand things are changing and our students are going to different places. But what we're grappling with as educators is the changing landscape of technology. We're grappling with the challenges and, of course, the opportunities thrown up by the rise of these large language learning models such as ChatGPT and many other generative AIs. So we're grappling with it. There are huge opportunities, but at the same time, there are challenges. We also hear that for our students who are coming through school at the moment, that the current careers and jobs that they're looking at may become redundant. Those jobs that they want to do may not exist because of those very same technologies, though ChatGPT and the generative AIs. So those jobs may disappear. So what does this mean for us as educators? So given that I don't have a beautiful visual, a picture of the earth, I'm going to talk about 2 words: knowledge and skills. I also know from watching TEDx talks that if you repeat your main points 4 times, people will nod sagely, thinking that you're very clever. So I will keep repeating knowledge and skills, and I will do so looking intelligent. And therefore you'll remember it. That's how TEDx works, okay? So if you think about what students really need to develop over time, I come from an IB background, as does Sita and many other people in here. And the IB is really looking at the development of lifelong learners. How do we do that? Through what the IB calls the learner profile, helping students to become open-minded, adaptable, flexible, compassionate, empathetic, all of those things that we think are important in education. In recent years, the IB has moved away from a content delivery. If you want to teach students the knowledge, skills, and understanding, as well as attributes and values, then it can't be through a traditional kind of curriculum. We have to think more broadly about not just the transmission of knowledge, but think about inquiry, skill development, interdisciplinary learning, and so on. Having said that, though, at the very heart of any learning is knowledge. Now, some of my colleagues in the IB world might say, well, that's an old-fashioned perspective, but really at the heart of all learning is knowledge. It's production, it's verification, and it's dissemination. So if we think about one question, and by the way, one of those great skills that we must teach students if they're going to be successful in the future is how to frame questions. It's not necessarily about getting the right answer, but it's knowing how to ask the right questions. So I will pose a question for you to think about now. To what extent is the internet changing what it means to know something? The emphasis there is on know. To what extent is the internet changing what it means to know something? So going back to the fact that the world is changing, no matter what the future looks like, no matter what careers students will move into, or how little technologies may or may not change certain careers, knowledge is still something that only resides in human beings. These learning systems, ChatGPT, etc., they don't know anything. They collect data. They can generate data, put it all together, but they can't manipulate data. They can't put it together in a meaningful way. It is only humans that can collect the data and develop compassionate systems or sustainable systems, or to make meaning of that knowledge. It requires humans. So the role of humans certainly has not disappeared. And this is where an education, a bit like an IB education, a course called Theory of Knowledge comes to mind, is really important, where students are not just in pursuit of the easy fix through ChatGPT, but they study knowledge itself. You can take a course like that, which has no prescribed content as such, but looks to link all the subjects, all the maths, sciences, humanities, etc., languages, bring it all together in an interdisciplinary way. Remember, that's certainly one of the ways of the future is interdisciplinarity. But then encourage students to think about what knowledge counts, what knowledge is important, which knowledge is verifiable, and therefore which knowledge you can then use to make a difference in the world, or to make products, or to take forwards with some service. So the ideal content for any educational course is actually the world around us. It's an amalgamation of our subjects and the world around us and how the world works. So what's important there is not the content that is delivered, but it is the skills with which students address the content. So therefore, it's imperative for us as educators in the new day of AI and ChatGPT and so on, is to teach those analytical skills, skills of synthesis, evaluation. How does a student look at data and verify whether that data is reliable or not? Going back to Donald Trump's famous phrases of fake news. Anything about him that wasn't positive was fake news. And it probably still is. Yeah, how does a student know what is reliable? You know, who's sponsoring a particular website, who's got a vested interest. So it's really, really important that those skills are taught. Whilst, as I say, the content can be flexible, the skills are what the students are going to need in the future. What we do know about the future is that students will need those skills of analysis, synthesis, and then how to present those skills, how to make arguments. So my big point here is, if we're to develop curricula and programs for children in the modern age with AI, that we must explicitly and deliberately teach those skills. That's my big point. So if we come back to the main guiding question that I introduced a few moments ago, to what extent is the internet changing what it means to know something? Well, the internet is actually changing what becomes known. We can't find out everything, but we can find out a lot. So the internet is changing what we actually know, but it's certainly not changing what we do with it. It is collecting data, but these systems are not doing anything with it. It's up to people to do it. So the last point I'll make then is that the knowledge that exists out there on the internet, knowledge is about making meaning from the world. Our children make meaning from the stimuli around them in the world. Knowledge arises out of human beings. So in a technological world, the most important part of our education, I think, is relationships and human beings and what's inside us as humans. So knowledge arises out of human beings in whatever context, using the information, the data that's available to improve our lives, to improve the human situation. If we don't do something, I spoke recently at Hyderabad public schools. What a wonderful place to be, and in Begumpet there, and everything that they're doing is aimed towards service. What's the point of knowledge if we don't do something with it? And that whole school's ethos is about improving life situations for other people. AI isn't yet doing that, but we can, as humans, do so. So it's about improving the human situation and reflecting on that data and assessing the validity of data that we receive. Only humans can do that. So the last point is, as educators, knowledge only resides within human beings. Let's enable students to really explore knowledge itself, not the knowledge of a particular subject, but the actual knowledge. So knowledge and skills, I'll say it a fourth time, knowledge and skills. Thank you.